And in making the decision, we have no idea how powerful our thoughts are in making the choice that I'm going back. Suddenly, I found myself moving about a very busy hospital. Now, I have no concept of time in this light, in this goodbye, this experience. I later found out people arrived at the scene. Spencer, my 7-year-old, was banged up pretty good, but he was basically able to walk away from the accident. I had to be extricated from the car. I had to be airlifted because of my injuries to the nearest level 1 trauma center. I didn't know any of that. All I knew is I'd crashed the car. I'd said the most profound goodbye I'll ever say. And then here I was moving about this hospital, seeing the doctors and the nurses and patients and the families of the patients. It's like I had a 360 awareness of everyone around me. And yet every individual, I saw them in such a profound way. I knew them. I knew their love. I knew their hate. I knew their pain, their motivations, their challenges. I knew them as if they were me. I knew, there was a connection. I now call it the oneness. I was experiencing a oneness with them. And I grew up in a Christian household, and even a biblical verse came to mind, which the verse was, "Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of one of these, you've done it unto me," which I used to believe was a nice verse about being nice. I was them and they were me. There was a nurse that passed. This is one example. And she was unaware of me. Of course, this is my spirit. They can't see me. My soul is moving about the hospital. But I felt everything about her. In fact, I even felt the abuse that she had experienced as a child, the physical, mental, sexual abuse, as if it was even my own. And yet in the same moment, I saw her magnificence. Look at her. Look at how wonderful. She's here serving, healing, helping in the hospital. And this was true of everyone I saw. I saw them in this true light. I knew I was seeing them as God sees them. And I was moving about, experiencing everyone like that in this strange 360 connected way, until I finally came up to a body or a man laying on the gurney that I didn't feel that from. And so I stepped closer to look. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, that's me. But it wasn't me. I was having this profound connected experience, but there was my body. There was the skin suit, if you will, that I had gone through this existence in, that had served me. As I looked at my body that was so broken, I had this profound sadness and yet this profound appreciation. It's like, wow, what a miracle the body is. I don't have to remind my heart to beat. I don't have to tell my lungs to breathe. I don't have to teach my eyes to see. There was this awareness, this gratitude of, wow, my body, and mine was so broken. And I knew I had to get back in it. I knew that I was to get back in that body. I had made that deal. I was going to come back and raise my surviving son. And again, our thoughts are so powerful. I didn't have to figure out, how do I get in the body? When I had the thought, when I had the intention, I'm going in, boom, then I was back in the body. But one night, as I was in that state, and I was still grieving so miserably, even with what had happened. I mean, I was grieving so miserably. And I had thought about my little boy who passed in the accident. And as I slept that night, and I realized I was sleeping, they had finally stabilized my stomach so I could sleep on my side. In fact, I had laid on my back so long that all the hair had rolled off the back of my head. I was bald on the back of my head. But this night I was sleeping on my side, and I felt that light come again. That light came. And it felt like it embraced me, comforted me. I rose above the hospital bed. But this time the light dispensed. It went away. It dissipated, and I was in the most beautiful place. And it was so physical. In fact, beyond physical, I could feel, and I had both legs, I had both feet. I could feel the energy of the ground beneath my feet and in my feet. I could feel the intelligence of my calves and my thighs and my whole vibration of my being. And I began to run. No, I don't run in this mortal realm, but in that realm, I was running and I was joyful. And, people say heaven or the other side. The only word that comes close to what I was experiencing is I was home. I was home. It felt so welcoming. It was familiar. It's as if I knew this place. And I began running about, and then I got the message or the knowing that I wasn't there to stay. And at that same time, there was this corridor, this path off to the left, and I knew that I was intuitively to go that way, and I did. I went that way. And as I worked down the path, at the end of the corridor, there was a crib. Now, my little boy, being only 14 months old, was still sleeping in a crib at the time of the accident. And so I raced to this crib and I looked in. And there was my little boy, sleeping as beautifully as when I glanced in the rearview mirror and I saw the details. I noticed his hands. I saw how long his eyelashes were. And I swept him up in my arms. And this is what was so profound. It was so physical. I don't know if you've ever picked up a sleeping child.
Yes.
But I could feel the weight and the heat of him. And I held him and he was solid against me. Even though I may have been in spirit, it was solid. And I began to weep, thinking I'm holding my little boy and he's okay. I could feel his breath on my neck. And I even leaned down and I smelled his hair. And I thought, it's him. And he's okay. And it's like the senses, the sight, taste, touch, smell, all of it was exaggerated. It was multiplied. And as I held my little boy weeping, thinking, wow, I really get to say goodbye to him, I felt this intense presence coming up behind me. This cosmic, overwhelming, powerful presence. And I actually began to be a little bit fearful. My upbringing, I thought, oh my goodness, that's God. And he's so close. And I'm holding my little boy and the guilt was coming up. It's like my little boy's here because I crashed the car. His life was cut short because I overcorrected or dozed off at the wheel, and the guilt was bubbling up and this presence was coming closer and closer. And then I had the thought, I hope I can be forgiven. And with that thought, I felt these divine arms wrap around and just hold me and my little boy. And there was an absolute download, just a download of knowledge, peace, truth, trust. The first message was, there's nothing to forgive. Everything is in perfect divine order. And I thought, how can that be? This is so, this is so terrible, so horrific. And I began to see my life. They say, well, your life flashed before my eyes. I was looking at my life and I was saying, well, that was a mistake. And in the arms of this beautiful being, I was told, there are no mistakes. What did you learn from it? What did you learn from it? And I said, well, that was wrong. And I knew it was wrong and I did it anyway. And the message was, that's your judgment of it, not ours. We love you. And it was communicated that and it was a very personal experience, but I knew it rippled out to every living soul. It's like, here I was holding my son, and here I was in the arms of the divine. And it's like, you are as precious and as perfect and as beloved and as cherished as the child you hold in the arms of God. And I learned a lot about choice. I was told you can be angry at God all your life because this was allowed to happen. I was told you can be angry at yourself. You can beat yourself up because you were driving the car. But I was given a new choice. And this was confusing. But the divine being that held me, the Creator, said to me, I want you to exercise your will. And I'm like, my will? I was taught it's your will be done. And the beautiful being that held me said, my will is your will. That's how much you're loved. My will has always been that you have free will, that you get to choose. And in all that peace and in all that beauty and all that joy, I was able to kiss my little boy. And I gave him back. I exercised my will. I handed him over and gave him rather than feeling that he had been taken away. And there was so much light and there was so much love and there was so much peace. And then suddenly I was back into the hospital bed, back into my broken, battered body. And I share this for this reason. I had a profound knowing. I was like, wow. I went into the other realms. I was held by God, but here I am in a wheelchair, broken in this mortal life and holding my surviving son. And it was no less divine than being in the other realms, holding my son who had passed in the arms of God, the unconditional love of that child. And that moment, heaven was right here. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to become. There was to simply be in that perfect moment and realize that God is love and that we are love and that we are all a part of the bigger realm of everything.